Over 3 months ago, the developers announced that they were working on the ability to reroll armaments, and we had thought they were pretty close to releasing the system, but now it's finally almost here. In this video, we'll review the latest information in the face-to-face with the developers that talks about rerolling armaments, and yes, you should prepare for this. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, and I am so hyped for re-rolling armaments and the stats that are on those armaments, because the thing that can be a real bummer when you pull down an armament that's looking really good with like these amazing inscriptions is if the stats are kind of mediocre and then the armament overall is not all that great. So the idea that you could re-roll armaments could be really powerful, both from the perspective of taking an armament you have that has great inscriptions but terrible stats and making those stats great, and also from the perspective perhaps of taking an armament that's otherwise perfect. It's got a good inscription, it's got a couple good stats, but like one of those stats is troop load. And if you could just re-roll that, hopefully into the stat you want, that could be a huge win. So let's see what the developers have to say about the upcoming armament changes, and they're calling it transmutation. What do they got? Governors, we mentioned in one of the previous episodes that we would launch the transmutation system to change the attributes of existing armaments. After receiving your feedback and inquiries, we've optimized the said system. We will answer your questions here. What is the main function of the transmutation system? The transmutation system is designed to enable the re-randomization of existing armament attributes. Okay, cool. Does the re-randomization apply to a single attribute or multiple? Great question. You can choose to lock one or two attributes or not at all. So you can do one attribute, two attributes, or all the attributes. Any locked attribute will not be re-randomized. After re-randomization, you have the freedom to retain the previous attribute or adopt the new one. Now, this is interesting. I think what they're saying is you adopt all the new ones or none of the new ones. And you may be wondering, why does that matter? Because if you're adopting all or none, then you would never take an armament that's got, let's say, it's got a low roll for archer stats. Do you see where I'm going with this? And it's like 1.7%, archer attack. And you want it to be 3.5, right? Well, on that armament, you would, if you've got great inscriptions, you really just want the other two to land on archer stuff, presumably. So you probably only reroll the critical stats, right? Like the troop load and the gold gathering and the siege stats, hoping that they land on archer stuff. Now, alternatively, you might look at an armament like that and say, we reroll all of it, and if it ends up a different troop type, so be it. But I think we'll see in a second why you don't want to do that, okay? So it is important to distinguish if you get to pick and choose each attribute if you keep them, or if it's all or none, and I think it's all or none. Does this system only change armament attributes? Can it change the inscription? And they say the system will only re-randomize the armament attributes, and everything else remains unchanged. Therefore, we recommend that you hold on to armaments with superior inscriptions and suboptimal attributes, so you'll have the chance to enhance these attributes through re-randomization once the system goes live. Now, you may remember I gave you that advice as well over 3 months ago in preparation for this system. In fact, I believe I said that you should start to hold on to these things when the armament system was initially released. I was like, man, hold on to your good inscriptions, okay? From here, does changing the armament attributes require items? Yes, you need specific items to change the armament attributes, and the locking of attributes will affect the number of items required. Oh, that's interesting. You can get these items from the armament shop and through various events. Wow, okay, interesting. So you can keep an attribute if you want, but it'll cost you. And that's fine. I still think, depending on what that cost is, the ability to keep an attribute is huge. It's actually a very big deal. It's a very big deal. Now, but that is interesting. It costs you extra if you want to lock one or two attributes. So what does that mean? So I don't know what it's going to take to to actually do this thing. We'll call them widgets, all right? It takes one widget if you want to re-roll all the attributes. But if you want to re-roll only 2 and you want to lock one of them, now it takes, let's call it 2 widgets to do your, randomization. Or if you want to lock 2 of them, now it'll take you 3 of the widgets, which is just a terrible word. I don't know, man. I guess what I'm hoping for this is that the cost to actually get these reroll items is sufficiently low. If it's sufficiently low and we can do lots of rerolling, like, hey, this is good. This is great. Does this feature work for all armaments? This feature only works for inscribed legendary armaments, and each armament can be transmuted up to 10 times. So this is really interesting. It only works on inscribed legendaries. So this has a profound implication because you could only do this on legendary armaments. So if you were saving epic armaments with the hopes of rerolling the stats, theoretically you could get rid of most of those and it would be okay. I would say you still should hold on to the potentially really good ones because I think there's a non-zero chance that maybe sometime down the road you could reroll for epics. I'm just saying, I'm calling it now. Even if it never happens, the cost to hold on to 20, 50, even 100 inscribed epic armaments is nearly zero to you. It is for most people 0 because you're not anywhere near the cap of armaments. So just hold on to your best epics anyways, just in case sometime down the road that's a thing that becomes a reality. When will the system go live? We're working on the system, but it's expected to be ready in July. Bro, that is next month. That is coming very soon. Let's just jump in game real quick to talk about what this means for how you manage your armament collection and what is coming in the future. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is how do you actually get this currency that you're going to use to reroll the armament attributes. And they said that that would happen in the armament shop and from events. So events is cool. Hopefully we get a bunch of those from events. And every week, I hope that we get the ability over here to get some number, I would hope it's a lot of them, honestly, of these transmutation items, okay? The reroll items. And why is that? Because this currency over here, the silver coins, is kind of meaningless. Yes, if you are free to play, or especially, certainly by the time you're low spending, if you're low spending, you can buy out this shop every single week regardless. But if you start spending it all, you accumulate kind of an infinite amount of these silver coins. So I think it would be good for the health of the game if these silver coins have more use other than just what's here. So adding the transmutation items, even if it's expensive, would be great. That would give meaning to these silver coins, which makes all of the systems related to this, I think, better. So that would be cool if they add that in over here. It's possible they added it on this side of the equation, the superior shop that takes the gold coins. I hope that's not the case because already it takes so many gold coins to get literally anywhere with the inscription shard chests that, like, I have been spending on these for like 6 months and I have 3 inscription shards. So that means that, like, in a year and a half, I will get 1 inscription from this shop. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it's already such a slow pace in this shop. I feel like if they add them for gold coins, like hopefully they would have, if they do that, some for gold coins and still a bunch for the silver coins. Because, like, I suppose more choice is just better. So yeah, sure. Okay, more choice would be better. But just all of them over here would be my preference. Now, in terms of like re-rolling the armaments and like which ones do you pick, it all depends on what these items cost, the transmutation items cost, and how many you can get per week, right? Because if you can get a lot of them, then that's cool. You know, one thing they said is that you can only re-roll 10 times. So the fact that they're limiting the number of re-rolls per armament is really interesting. Like, to me, that indicates that they're going to make these re-rolls more common, but you're limited to the number of them. And man, that's just giving me like big time Diablo vibes, where you can re-roll in Diablo and the cost goes up every single time and you could do it infinitely. Well, here you can't do it infinitely. You could only do it 10 times. I hope the cost doesn't go up each time you do it. That would get potentially really expensive. But 10 times means I have 10 opportunities to get Not siege attack, troop load, and siege unit health on enraged onslaught. Is this even good? Okay, 2.5% extra skill damage. Yes, that's good. And 1.5% extra normal attack damage. Jeez. Yeah. So like double inscriptions are obviously like your starting point. Special inscriptions are probably a great place to start. Here's another double inscription. Guarded. Oh my God. The wielder's troop has a 10% chance to reduce incoming skill damage by 20%. Hello. Cooldown of 5 seconds though. That's maybe not as good as it looks. And then whenever the wielder's troop is attacked, there's a 10% chance to reduce all damage taken by 10% for 2 seconds. Cooldown of 5 seconds. Dude. Like the anti-swarm possibility for some of this stuff. Oh my gosh. So my initial reaction here is you take these armaments that just have really, really good inscriptions and like those are the ones you want to reroll. That's it. Those are the ones you start with. And then later you go back and I have a perfect example. This armament right over here. So if I can lock archer attack and lock archer health and reroll the troop load, like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to get an archer stat. And then this armament is eventually really good. It's almost as good as, you know, getting one of the items at the end of a KVK where you lose and then you apply robust onto there because you can get that inscription from there. But this is the perfect example of an armament where you lock the high roll on archer attack, you lock the high roll on archer health, and you re-roll that troop load for sure. But if we look at these double inscriptions, I actually have one of these I want to show you. And I believe I'm actually wearing it right now on an archer. Here it is. So this one has 1.7% archer defense. And depending on the cost of what it takes to continue to re-roll this defense versus locking it, I think it's possible you just re-roll this very, very, very low roll on archer defense. And, you know, you just hope for a high roll of any troop type, right? Because the 1.7 is just, I mean, you're missing almost 2% of stats there. I don't know. Depending on what the cost is to keep it locked, maybe you lock it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments on this upcoming system and how you think it's going to work. At the end of the day, inscriptions are so rare that it is critical that they add these rerolls, which is almost here, and 10 opportunities to get something good, and you may still end up with nothing. The reality is you may still end up with nothing, but 10 chances to get something great, I'll take that, man. It all is going to matter or depend on what the cost is to do it. And if you want to see exactly what that looks like when it happens, consider subscribing. If you're looking for my earlier videos about transmutation, I'll have a card in the end screen for the first time the developers announced this. It was a little over 3 months ago.